All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to explore a really cool connection between two worlds that, on the surface, seem totally different: filmmaking and coding. I mean, what could a big shot Hollywood director possibly have in common with a software developer? Well, as it turns out, quite a lot.
Just think for a second about your favorite movie. All that excitement, that drama, that feeling you get, a huge part of that comes down to a really simple choice: what the director decides you get to see inside the camera's frame. So it makes you wonder, what does one little camera angle have to do with a single line of code? It sounds kind of random, right? But the answer actually gets at a fundamental truth about how we create, well, anything, from a summer blockbuster to a world-changing app.
And that answer? It all comes down to the frame. See, in any creative process, the very first decision you make is what to include and, just as critically, what to leave out. That one choice sets the stage for literally everything that comes after. For a filmmaker, that rectangular frame isn't just some border. No, it's their entire universe. It's the only window you, the audience, get to peek through. And everything they put inside that box, or leave out of it, shapes the story, the feeling, and your entire emotional ride. So, directors have this awesome toolkit for messing with our heads and hearts. Let's just look at a few simple ways they control exactly how we feel. And the crazy part is, they do it without us even realizing it's happening. Okay, first up, aspect ratio. This is literally the shape of the world you see on screen. A super wide, panoramic frame makes you feel the epic scale of a landscape. But a taller, more narrow frame, that can make things feel really intimate or even a bit claustrophobic. The shape itself is telling part of the story. And then you've got the point of view shot. This is where the camera basically becomes the character's eyes. You're forced to see the world exactly as they do. You feel their panic, you share their surprise. You're not just a spectator anymore. You're experiencing it with them. Or how about the Dutch angle? Just by tilting the camera a little bit, a director can make a totally normal room feel off, unsettling, tense, chaotic. It's this tiny change with this huge emotional punch, and it puts the audience on edge without anyone saying a single word. So yeah, it all boils down to this really powerful idea. A director's job is to make choices that guide what we see and how we feel. They are masters of framing a story. Now, let's completely switch gears and see how this all connects to the world of code. Okay, so if that's how you frame a visual story, how on earth do you frame a world that's built on nothing but pure logic? This is where our journey takes a turn, from the director's chair right over to the coder's keyboard. Before a programmer even types out one line of actual code, they have to make a bunch of really important foundational choices. They have to build their environment, their digital workshop, if you will. That whole process, that's their version of choosing the frame. I mean, the parallel's pretty wild when you think about it. A director picks out lenses, camera angles, and aspect ratios to create the world for their story. A coder picks out programming languages, tools, and software packages to create the world for their logic. See? In both cases, they're laying down the law for their universe before the real creation even gets started. Okay, let's make this a little less abstract. We're going to use a super popular programming language, Python, as our example. You're about to see how setting up an environment is its own deliberate, creative act of framing. Now, don't just see this as a boring list of commands. Think of it more like an artist getting their studio ready. First, you install Python. That's your raw material, your chunk of marble. Next, you verify pip, which is the tool that lets you add all sorts of new capabilities. That's like making sure your chisels are sharp. And finally, you fire up a workspace, like a Jupyter notebook. That's your canvas, where the real work is about to begin. You know how in movies, they'll often start with a big, wide shot of a city skyline or a country road? That's called an establishing shot. It immediately tells the audience, okay, this is where and when our story is starting. It gives you instant context. Well, in the world of code, this is the establishing shot. Print hello world is pretty much the first thing every single programmer writes in a new setup. It's this super simple test that basically says one thing: my world is built, the frame is in place, I'm ready to go. Okay, so we've looked at the director on set and the coder at the keyboard. Let's pull it all together now and talk about why this whole frame idea is just so incredibly important no matter what it is you're making. And here's the big takeaway from all of this. Those initial boundaries you set up, they don't just start your project. They define its entire future. A director who chooses to frame their story in a tight, intimate aspect ratio can't suddenly give you a sprawling, epic battle scene. It just won't work. And in the same way, the coder's initial setup, the language they pick, the tools they install, determines every single feature they can possibly build later on. That first frame dictates everything. So at the end of the day, just remember this. Whether you're tilting a camera or installing a new piece of software, the frame you choose is what sets the rules for your world. It's what focuses attention on the important stuff. It defines what is even possible. And ultimately, it's what shapes the final story you're able to tell. So, think about it. The next time you kick off any kind of project, a presentation for work, a new hobby, even just organizing your desk, think about your frame. Think about those first few choices you make before you really dive in. Because that frame, it isn't just the beginning of your story. In a lot of ways, it's the most important part. So, what story will your next frame tell?